since 2008, Partners for Health has awarded nearly $8 million to 60 organizations. $8 million, 60 organizations. This year we're going to give away $1.5 million. I think we did the same last year. So we're really excited about all the work that we've done. Our efforts target the health of all members of the community, particularly our most vulnerable members and neighbors. We focus on building youth resiliency and providing a stronger safety net for our children through supportive behavioral health services. We work with our statewide coalition of partners who are promoting system, policy, and environmental changes to reduce obesity and support chronic disease prevention. We address the needs of seniors, of which I'm going to be in a couple of weeks, who want to remain active members of the community. And of course today we are serving hunger and homeless, and that's why we're here today. We're especially committed to fighting hunger and homeless. Today we've donated somewhere in the neighborhood, I don't know the exact numbers, anywhere between $70,000 and $100,000 in our work today, and since 2013 we've given away $700,000 to that area, and we're really, really delighted. For all of you that are wondering why you're here, those dollars will be distributed to our local communities, to soup kitchens and food pantries, working to ensure our neighbors in need to have access to healthy and nutritious food, to organizations that address homelessness through financial literacy education, to community gardens, of which many of you are part of, that donate fresh produce to emergency food programs, and our matching grants programs, which you do at the end of the year, that incentivize the community members to join in these efforts. So we're excited about the work that we've done. We have a lot more work to do in the future. Thank you very, very much for coming today. I'm going to turn the program now over to our fearless leader. None of this would get done without the work of Pam Scott. Everyone in this room knows Pam Scott. She is the leader, and I'm going to turn the program over to her.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you all for coming out today and being part of this great event. I know many of you have been here for many, many years, and some of you were here for the first time, but either way, it's fabulous that you are all here, and we really appreciate your support. As Kevin mentioned, our tournament today is raising money to fight hunger and homelessness, and our guest speakers tonight are here to help us understand the need better and the work that's being done, and maybe even some insights into things that really we could do to go forward and do even more. So we view our work as being a partnership with the community and with guest speakers like this. So you're going to hear from them in a minute, but first I'm going to introduce them. Seal Zalkind is the Executive Director of Advocates for Children of New Jersey. She's been working in this field for more than 30 years, helping out with better outcomes for children in child welfare, early care and education, health care, and the juvenile justice system. Her full bio and John's are in your program, so I'm not going to tell you too much more about her. And John Mooney is the Chief Executive Officer and founding editor of NJ Spotlight. It's a website, that news and information site that focuses on New Jersey public policy and analysis. And he's won numerous state and national awards and speaks regularly on education and media issues. So we're delighted that you're both here tonight. We're going to have them they're going to have a conversation now to help discussing statewide efforts to address childhood hunger and poverty. So please give them a warm welcome. And again, thank you all. We appreciate your support.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's nice to be in this booster seat, I might add. I can see you all, so I feel like I'm lording over the room a little bit. Pam, downplayed the how lucky we are to have Seal with us today. Seal is, besides her bio, is really, I would say, the foremost advocate for children in New Jersey in terms of her expertise and in terms of her talents. Any issue that is being debated in Trenton these days, and there's quite a few issues being debated in Trenton these days, Seal is front and center and really a superstar. So we're very lucky to have her with us. I've covered education in New Jersey for 20 years or so, first with the Bergen Record and then the Star Ledger, and then most recently with NJ Spotlight, and issues of child poverty and hunger are central to any discussion of public schools in this state. And so this is near and dear to my heart to be talking about this with SEAL. And one of the things I wanted to get at, and I have a little bit of a history of what you guys have talked about in previous ones, but to look at some of the policy issues that are central in this debate. It's, because a lot gets in this state with such a centralized government, a lot gets decided on a statewide level in Trenton. And, one of the things that SEAL I'd like to talk to SEAL a little bit about is really one of the great success stories in policy. And I don't say that lightly. There's not a lot of great success stories in New Jersey policy, at least not in terms of how quickly this turned around. But I think it was 5 years ago, New Jersey was ranked near the bottom in terms of participation in school breakfast programs, in the very bottom of the state. And with the help of SEAL and some federal money, incredible strides have taken place on that. And as an education reporter and anybody who cares about kids, the importance of getting kids in school well-nourished and ready to learn is critical. And I wanted to talk to SEAL a little bit. Can you give a little bit of background? I touched on it, where we started on this, and what does it mean? What does school breakfast really mean in this day and age?
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
There you go. Guess you have to turn it on. ACNJ, Advocates for Children, is a policy advocacy organization. So we do not provide direct services. We do research and, as John said, legislative activity, lobbying for kids on the state level and on the federal level. 5 years ago, we decided to change our focus a little bit and look at what was happening in more local communities. It's unusual for us. We're a very small organization, but we really wanted to participate in something that had a chance at success. It's been a difficult climate in our state for political and economic reasons, and we decided to take a look at the school breakfast program. So the federal government has the school meals program that provides free or reduced lunch and breakfast to children who are considered low income. So in New Jersey, that would be a family at about $46,000 a year for a family of 4. We know that our state was doing very well. School districts are doing pretty well on serving kids school lunch, but very badly on breakfast. Same kids, same application, same federal funding, but just not reaching kids for breakfast. So we decided to take a look at it. So 5 years ago, we kicked off the campaign in 2011. New Jersey was 48th in the country for reaching eligible kids for breakfast. We knew they were missing a lot of kids, and we knew they were leaving a lot of federal money on the table. So we decided to take a look at what the problem was. And we started with, what's the policy issue on the state level? And what we discovered was there was a small policy issue on the state level that was resolved very quickly. I'll tell you in a minute what it was. The issue really was convincing school districts to do business differently. Most districts were serving children in a central location after school started. And ironically, or not so ironically, kids were not in school. They were just arriving at school. We set up our Breakfast After the Bell campaign and convinced districts that they need to look at serving breakfast in the classroom after the bell to reach more kids. The one policy barrier was that school districts believed that they were not permitted to do that because it would take away from instructional time. Their minutes are counted. And we managed to get the Commissioner of Education, then Commissioner Cerf, and the Secretary of Agriculture, Doug Fisher, to sign a joint memo that they sent out to schools saying, if you want to serve breakfast after the bell, it does not count against instructional time. And that really set off what's been an incredible journey for us. So very quickly, 5 years later, we are serving 101,000 more children breakfast every day. We've increased participation. 79% more kids are getting breakfast. And when I say we, that's the royal we. That's us and our many partners on the state level and in local communities. So we're reaching more kids. It has not cost the state a dime. It's actually brought $46 million more money into New Jersey to pay for it. And we've moved New Jersey in the rankings in 5 years from 48th to 23rd. So,
Just for those, when we're talking about after the bell, this is at their desks in the classroom, served
Yes.
by their student?
Yes, and
What does it mean
schools
after
vary
that?
a lot how they do this. Some provide a grab-and-go breakfast where there's a kiosk, either for older kids, it's often a kiosk when they come into school, they can pick up their breakfast. Some kids, it's a kiosk in the classroom. In some schools, the food is delivered to the classroom. It's not often a hot meal, although there are schools that are serving hot breakfast. It's a healthy, balanced breakfast, fruit, milk, cereal, a muffin. It comes in their food, whether the school is doing its own meals or using a food vendor, usually comes in some kind of wrapping that is available to throw the food out, throw the trash out, because believe it or not, when we started this, that was the biggest barrier. What are we gonna do with all this garbage, right? We had a school in Patterson that said to us, we'd love to do this, but we don't have a dumpster, which I found hard to believe. And we actually bought them a dumpster. So it is served in the classroom. In Eastside High School in Newark, for example, the students run the program. They bring the food up, they bring it up to the classroom. Now the issue is, I think, and some schools push back, and rightfully so, districts that have a high percentage of children who are low income can serve all kids in their district. And that's what's been the success. They've managed to serve every child in the district. Districts with fewer, not as many children eligible, have to look at a program that serves some kids but not all. But there are some very creative superintendents out there who've taken that on. 2 months after we did our report, Richard O'Malley in Edison, the superintendent in Edison, who has not a high percentage of low-income kids, said, I really believe in the importance of breakfast. I think it can make a difference for kids. I'm going to serve it to every child. And he used district funds to provide very, very low cost to families who did not have eligible kids, and is serving all kids in Edison.
And this
So
is all
there are ways to
ages,
do
this
it.
is elementary all the way through high
Yes.
school. Do you see different experiences between high schools and lower grades?
Well, you know, when we started, we thought this was really a program for elementary schools. And it's for the younger kids, that older kids, you know, they may not be so inclined to eat in the morning. And what we discovered is that high school students are very interested. So we kicked off our campaign in Perth Amboy, had a very engaged and committed food service director in Perth Amboy, who started it in the elementary schools. He came back to us the following year and said not only have they succeeded in the elementary schools, but they've created demand in the middle schools and high schools. So we're about to come out with a report looking at how Newark is handling breakfast at the high schools. And they're doing some very creative things. The breakfast, the grab-and-go breakfast, serving a hot breakfast. I think it's good for kids of all ages.
Yeah, and why, I mean, as I mentioned, it's not often where you see this kind of turnaround in New Jersey or anywhere around a policy issue. What are the lessons of this? Is it, you know, I think you had talked about how they engage their communities. It wasn't just a mandate on high and therefore thou shalt serve breakfast, but it was a grassroots effort. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, so part of our campaign was to develop advocates on the local level. To put out data, the first year we did this, we put out data on what we called the underachiever districts. Those that had 40% or more children eligible for free and reduced meals, but were serving fewer than 20%. It was pretty dramatic. It was an eye-opener.
Somewhat of a public shaming of
It
school
was.
districts, was it not?
That's right. And now that we're in our 5th year, I have superintendents coming up to me and saying, how are we doing? I don't want to be on that underachievers list this year. And we use that to try and engage people on the local level. And the exciting part of the campaign is that a lot of people in a lot of different ways were involved. School board members, food service directors, parents. We had a parent in Union City who decided she was going to take on the school board and convince them to do this. Teachers, principals. It's very exciting because once someone is engaged in it, even if they're skeptical, they see the results immediately. So we know what research says, but it really means a lot when a principal says, you know, I really didn't want to do this. And we had somebody in Jersey City say that to us last year when we hosted our annual report at the Jersey City School. She said, I went to this kicking and screaming. I couldn't see the need for it. It was a lot of mess, a lot of worry. Why would I do this? She said, well, I'm here to say I was completely wrong. I could see the difference in my kids. They pay attention in class. There are fewer visits to the nurse. There are fewer behavioral issues in class. And that's an immediate thing. We've heard that from everybody, teachers, principals.
And then there's also a real difference in that this is largely, if not entirely, federal money, correct?
It is all
And
federal money.
that changes the equation in any initiative, does it not?
Yes, the fact that not only did it not cost the state a dime, but New Jersey was leaving a lot of federal money on the table. So $46 million every year now coming into the state to support the expanded school breakfast is pretty significant. And some of the districts that have stepped up, Patterson, for example, was serving about 16% of children who were eligible. Patterson is a district that can serve all eligible children. They had a very dynamic food service director, a wonderful group of parents who decided they were going to make this their issue. This year, they served 93% of kids. Huge difference, and they're excited about it.
What are the numbers in terms of statewide? Is there an overall percentage of kids who are served or percentage of districts that serve X amount? I mean, is there a total number out there?
I think that I just looked at the totals today. If you looked at both free and reduced, so free, reduced lunch, our children are at a slightly higher income level. There are close to 500,000 children who are eligible. And we still have a long way to go. We're reaching almost 300,000 with breakfast. But when you think of where this started, we've come a long way. But I think it also speaks to the need and food insecurity that children are facing. For many kids, not just in the Newarks and the Camdens and the Pattersons, but in rural communities and some suburban communities. I grew up in Clifton, for example. Clifton is a school breakfast underachiever. You know, you have kids who depend on those school meals. They're their most solid meal of the day. You know, many schools have created a backpack program to send food home with kids over the weekend because they're not going to get that regular meal in school. Teacher told me she had a little boy in her classroom once they started serving breakfast who was putting aside his muffin every day. She said, "Why aren't you eating this?" So I'm taking it home for my brother. He's not in school yet.
And in terms of, there are still, as you mentioned with Clifton, there's still some fairly significant gaps. I mean, we're at 23, we're not number one or in the top 5. I mean, there's still a lot of work to do on this.
Yes, I think there is. I think there's a lot of work to do, but it's exciting because I think there's momentum growing. And you build on success. People see it's working wherever they are, whether they're in the school system or a parent, a school board member, one of our partners, our education partners. Somebody's been there ahead of you. It's been very exciting to see superintendents step up and work with other superintendents about how they could do this. It's not as hard as it seems. It really is basically changing the way we do business.
Can you tell folks where they can get information about their own school district on this?
Yes, I actually brought some fact sheets on Passaic and Essex counties, which I'll leave with Pam. But if you go to our website, www.acnj.org, there's a link to our school breakfast campaign, and we publish data by county, every school in that county, every school district in that county to show what the eligibility levels are and the percentage of kids who are eligible but not getting breakfast, and the amount of money that's being left on the table as a result.
And this is district-wide, not school. You don't do
Yes.
school by school.
No, it's district-wide,
Yeah, okay.
not school by school, district-wide.
And talk a little. You mentioned that this has sort of led to some other initiatives that you've gotten going, summer meals and the like. Talk a little bit about what else you've been doing on this.
Well, I think we've realized that this is the beginning of something that could be a lot bigger. Last year and this year with a little more intensity, we started focusing on what happens during the summer for kids. Hunger doesn't end when school lets out for the summer. And we looked last year at 47 communities that have a very high number of children who would be eligible, who are not making summer meals available at all. And just like breakfast and lunch, there's federal money that a community could get for serving summer meals. So this year we've put out a lot of information. The Department of Agriculture is participating in this to identify where there are food sites, and in communities it varies. In some communities where the school system is the hub, they provide the meals that go out to programs in their community. Last year we talked about summer meals in Perth Amboy again, and the mayor there, Wilda Diaz, was absolutely committed to summer meals. She made it a priority of her
Where are these being
program.
served?
Those are being served all over, wherever there's a summer program. So, for example, a church who runs a camp, a nonprofit who runs a program, the recreation department of the city, all can sign up to participate in the meals program.
We have a little time if there's anyone who has a question or comment on this. Was there, just wanted to at least provide that opportunity. But want to talk a little bit about, as we close up, what folks in this room can do to move these issues along. Is it the public shaming of their school district now that they're all armed with this data, or what are the things that folks can be armed with as they can bring this to their own communities?
I think I would start a little more subtly. I think, our data's available. I take a look at the town you live in and where that town is, how it's doing on breakfast. You could be a voice to ask the superintendent why they're not reaching more kids. Are they aware of the school breakfast campaign? They can get a lot of help from the Department of Agriculture, from food vendors to get the program started. And I just call it to the attention. I think if you look at the data, you'll see what districts are doing well and what still need work. I know in looking at the sheets, Belleville is an area that needs improvement. Clifton, I mentioned, my hometown, needs improvement as well.
How does West Orange and Montclair do?
Well, Montclair is doing well. We actually just had a meeting with the superintendent in West Orange, because West Orange has a high percentage of children who are eligible, and they're not doing well on serving breakfast. And he called us in, this was about 2 months ago, and asked me to talk to us about breakfast. He had his food service director there, very enthusiastic, a real advocate within the system, and they've made a commitment to kick off a program in the fall in 3 elementary schools that have the highest percentage of low-income kids. And a district, that's not able to do it across the whole district, wants to start with specific schools, that's a way to go too.
I mean, is there still pushback on it, or is it just feeling overwhelmed with all the other things that they have to do? I mean, are there skeptics to the value of it? It seems
a lot less than there used to be. When we, yes, a lot less than there used to be. I think that as people get engaged and involved, and there have been some wonderful champions who stepped up. Again, parents, teachers, food service directors, they become the most convincing voice for any district's ability to do this. And it's been exciting to connect people. Richard O'Malley in Edison has been a wonderful spokesperson and has stepped up to work with superintendents to say, this is not as hard as you think it is. And we've heard uniformly how exciting it is when they see the results immediately.
And is there more, circling this back to state policy, is there more that the state can be doing to, in terms of compliance or in terms of really pushing districts that aren't necessarily, keeping up with this?
Well, I think we're a home rule state, right? We have all those individual school districts. They have a lot of control over decision making. And I think the Department of Education has been pretty excited about our campaign because they feel it's gotten the word out in a way that they have not been able to do. One thing that we've been advocating for, and it's a small incentive fund, it's about a $3 million incentive fund that the Department of Agriculture used to have for districts that need some startup. They can demonstrate that they need startup funds. The department eliminated that fund because nobody was using it, nobody was serving breakfast. But now that it's taken off across the state, that incentive fund would be helpful. And Assemblyman Scher actually has legislation and sponsored a resolution in the budget, which unfortunately the governor vetoed out. But that would help. And we're not talking about a huge amount of money. It's about a $3 million fund.
Yeah, and a budget of $30 billion or something of that sort. All right. Well, I think we're good. This is fascinating. Thank you, Seal. We are leaving some information for folks. Seal probably won't be sticking around very long, but I'm sure believe me, she is one of the most accessible and pleasant people to work with as a journalist, and I'm sure she'd be happy to share any more information.
Check out our website if you want to call. Happy to work with you if you're interested in a district. I have to apologize because I have to catch a train to Washington, so
Let you go.
shortly.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.